Hey, welcome back. Let's build your go-to market toolkit. A go-to market or GTM strategy isn't just a vague plan. It's a practical tool to bring clarity and momentum to your product launch. Even though GTM can feel like a big catch-all term, underneath it are a handful of clear components and frameworks that product marketers lean on to make sense of the chaos. Think of this as your GTM blueprint. The more you understand how each part fits together, things like your market, your audience, your messaging, your pricing, the better decisions you'll make when you actually start building out a launch plan. So, in this lecture, I'm going to walk you through three big things. First, the core building blocks of any GTM strategy. Second, the three-phase GTM process that most product marketing teams use. And third, the classic frameworks that help structure all of this, like STP and the 4Ps. These are the tools that help turn ideas into action, and they'll keep showing up as we move through the rest of the course. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What actually makes up a go-to market strategy? If you were building one from scratch, what would you need? There are 5 key components that most GTM plans include. I'm going to list them here, but don't worry, we'll be working through these throughout the course. They are the market you're going after, the customer you're targeting, the value proposition you're offering, the channels you'll use to reach people, and your pricing. That's your foundation. So let's go through them briefly. First, market selection. This is about picking the right space to play in. A GTM plan isn't trying to tackle the entire world. It's focused. You want to choose a market that's growing, that has a clear problem you can solve, and ideally, where your competition either isn't strong or isn't solving that problem well. Then we get to targeting. This is where you narrow in on the specific kind of customer you're going to serve. Your market might include several customer segments, but your job is to choose the ones that are most aligned with what you're offering. Later in the course, we'll talk more about segmentation and customer personas, but for now, just think, who is most likely to need what we're selling and be willing to act on it? From there, we move to the value proposition. This is the core promise of your product. It's the answer to the question, why should someone choose us instead of another option? A strong value proposition is simple, specific, and meaningful to the customer. If you can't clearly state what makes your product better or different, you're not ready to go to market. Next is channels. This is all about how you're going to reach and sell to people. Are you using social media ads, in-person sales teams? Are you distributing through retailers or selling directly on your website? Channels can make or break a launch. A great product launched through the wrong channel is almost guaranteed to flop. We'll get into channel selection and mix modeling more in depth later in the course. And finally, pricing. You have to make sure your price fits your customers' expectations, supports your positioning, and still works for the business financially. The right pricing strategy helps reinforce your core value proposition. Are you the premium choice, the best value, or the affordable alternative? Pricing strategy and monetization models are coming up later. For now, keep the alignment with your value prop in mind. Now, while those 5 elements are all important on their own, what really matters is how they work together. A great GTM strategy isn't just 5 good decisions, it's 5 connected decisions. Each one should support the others. If your value prop is about being a low-cost option but your pricing is premium, that's a disconnect. If your audience is enterprise buyers but you're relying on Instagram ads, you might be missing the mark. If you need a starting point, draft a 1-page GTM canvas that links your target segment, value prop, channel plan, and first pass pricing. Then sanity check that each decision reinforces the others. So with those elements in mind, let's move to the next big idea, the 3-phase GTM process. This is a way of organizing the GTM strategy into a sequence. So you're not just making isolated choices, but building momentum in the right order. The 3 phases are analyze, design, and deliver. In the analyze phase, you're researching the market, sizing up the opportunity, studying competitors, and identifying your target customers. This is where you ask questions like, who are we trying to reach? What do they need? What else are they using now? What gaps can we fill? The goal here is clarity. If you skip this step or rush it, everything else in your GTM plan is going to be built on shaky assumptions. Next is design. This is where you take what you learned and actually shape the strategy. You define your value prop, set your pricing, decide your positioning, and start figuring out your messaging. You're also deciding on your launch channels and beginning to align internal teams. marketing, sales, product, and support, so everyone is working toward the same goal. This is the planning engine of the GTM process. Without this phase, you're just reacting instead of leading. Then comes deliver. This is where the rubber meets the road. You're executing campaigns, enabling your sales team, launching the product, and measuring how things are going. If the market responds in unexpected ways, you adapt. But because you've done the analysis and planning up front, your launch is grounded in real insights, not guesswork. One example of this working well is Peloton's early go-to market. Instead of relying on traditional retail stores to sell their high-end exercise bikes, they opened their own showrooms inside shopping malls. By late 2018, Peloton had opened dozens of showrooms and rapidly expanded because trying the bike was key to conversion. This wasn't just a quirky decision. It aligned with their target customers' habits, reinforced their premium positioning, and gave people a place to try the product in person. Every part of that strategy, market choice, channel, value prop, even pricing, was connected. Quick distinction before we move on. GTM is a launch-specific cross-functional plan to take one product into a defined market. Marketing strategy is your ongoing brand and demand engine. GTM lands the plane, marketing keeps it flying. We'll keep that boundary in mind as we move through the course. All right, now let's zoom out one more time and talk about two classic marketing frameworks that help us structure GTM decisions: STP and the 4 Ps. STP stands for segmentation, targeting, and positioning. It's a mental model that helps you get from everyone to this specific customer, and here's what we're saying to them. First, you segment the market into different groups. Then you choose which ones you're going to focus on. That's targeting. And finally, you position your product in a way that speaks directly to those customers. This framework is so fundamental to GTM strategy because it keeps you focused and intentional. You're not trying to sell to everyone. You're making a strategic choice about where to play and how to win. Then there's the marketing mix, or the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. This is the checklist of tactical decisions you need to make before you go to market. What exactly are you selling? How much does it cost? Where will people find it? And how will you promote it? This framework is incredibly useful when you're building out the execution side of your GTM plan. It helps make sure no major piece gets left out. These frameworks aren't just for theory, they're tools you can use every day. Whether you're preparing a product launch, reviewing a marketing campaign, or aligning with sales, they help you ask better questions and make smarter decisions. Before we wrap up, I want to encourage you to think about how these ideas show up in the work you're already doing. For example, if you're helping with a product launch, are you clear on who the target segment is? Are the channels and pricing aligned with the value prop? Are teams internally working off the same blueprint? Getting this right doesn't mean having a 50-page GTM document. It means making connected, intentional choices that match your customer, your product, and your market reality. So, to recap, GTM strategy is made up of several core components, and they all need to work together. You want to analyze your market, design a strategy that matches your customer and business needs, and then deliver it through channels that actually reach your audience. Frameworks like STP and the 4 Ps are here to help you keep all those moving pieces aligned. In the next lecture, we're going to dig into the first step of GTM planning: analyzing the market and getting to know your customer. This is where your smart strategies really start. See you there.